February 9th, 2018, a Friday afternoon in Conchina Village, a bedroom community 10 miles south of Flagstaff, Arizona. The street was Gamble Oak Trail, a dirt road lined with mobile homes in an area of lax zoning rules and low rent. From a well-kept baby blue single wide on the east side of the street, a drunken Collin Tarr texted his cousin Victoria, "I want to beat somebody up bad, real bad." A few hours later, an extremely drunk Tarr was covered with blood, and a dead body was laying in the middle of Gamble Oak Trail. Victoria, who saw the dead man in the street upon arriving home, later told the police, "He did it. My cousin did it." Flagstaff police immediately see an obvious open and shut case, and later so does the jury. They see the text, "I want to beat somebody up bad, real bad." They see Tarr covered in blood. They see Tim Larson dead in the middle of Gamble Oak Trail. The Flagstaff police force immediately see the obvious and soon focus their investigation on Tarr as the obvious murderer. Flagstaff police see a case solved quickly with minimal investigation everywhere because it was so obvious. Later, the jury, too, doesn't venture to see beyond the obvious, and it does look so obvious. Guilty. Collin Tarr was convicted of second-degree murder and is currently serving a 15-year sentence in a high-security unit of Florence Prison in Florence, Arizona. But what if the real story wasn't so obvious? What if the real story peeled back the layers of deception, adultery, domestic violence, and alcoholism on Gamble Oak Trail that day?
Collin Tarr is innocent, and we know the whole story, the real story. The story the small-town Flagstaff police failed to investigate and uncover. In this true crime podcast, we will tell you the whole story, backed up with evidence, police reports, witness testimony, court transcripts, and police body cam audio. I'm Liz Boyle, a 20-year veteran of CBS radio and television. I'm also Collin Tarr's aunt.
And I'm Collin's mom, Kathy.
And we have spent the last 4 years poring over and examining all of that evidence over and over and over again to piece together what really happened on the afternoon of February 9th on Gamble Oak Trail.
We uncovered the story the Flagstaff police, in their tunnel vision, failed to investigate. And everything in this podcast is backed up by evidence, which will be available to view in the weeks to come at the website CollinTarrIsInnocent.com.
It is our hope that after listening to this podcast, you too will come to the conclusion that Collin Tarr is innocent. When we return, Chapter 1 of the real story on the Collin Tarr is Innocent podcast.
Years ago, back when times were maybe simpler, there was a kind of radio called freeform, underground, or even progressive. Now, this definition did not so much define the style of music as much as the spirit of the music itself, which encompassed whatever the disc jockey felt would work in his show. It was a great time of discovery of new bands and music, which fused with the social conscience of the station itself. You knew what the radio station stood for. Well, those times have returned, but this time it's on the internet. Click on to RadioFreePhoenix.com and find yourself immersed in the music. Rock, folk, blues, new wave, Americana, progressive, local Arizona, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and new music too. It's RadioFreePhoenix.com. I'm Andy Olson, inviting you to join me and my friends for a fresh, homegrown listening experience on Radio Free Phoenix, 24/7. It's on the net, RadioFreePhoenix.com.
Collin Tarr is Innocent, the True Crime Podcast, Episode 1. It was Friday afternoon on Gamble Oak Trail. Collin Tarr and his friend and neighbor Tim Larson already had more than a few drinks under their belts. According to neighbors, Tim hit the bottle pretty frequently, mostly malt liquor. Collin wasn't a daily drinker, but it was Friday, and time to let loose, since his dad, whom he shared the house with, would be down in Phoenix all weekend. Collin and Tim were ready to party, and there was a fight brewing. Collin and Tim had become increasingly unsettled about the reported domestic violence occurring across the street at the home of Nathan and Marky Golden. In police reports, neighbor Natalie Fredrickson stated that yelling was not uncommon from that area. Police report having been called multiple times to the home, Both Collin and Tim had been disturbed about the most recent outbreak of violence at the Golden home. According to the police report, Victoria related that on one recent night, Marky and Nathan were fighting, and that Marky had come over to Victoria's house and was screaming bloody murder, stating Nathan was hurting her.
According to Victoria's statement, a few weeks before, Marky came out screaming bloody murder, and Collin and Nathan had gotten into it then because domestic violence going on. Tim and Collin didn't like the fact that he was allegedly beating a woman. My son was always for the underdog. He wouldn't put up with watching somebody hitting a woman. Tim didn't like it either. So Collin and Tim were friends. They were on the same side. We'll get to that later down in the story.
Collin Tarr was especially agitated as he was in the midst of a sexual relationship with neighbor Marky Golden.
It was just a pure sexual convenience for both of them, I suppose. But there was a sexual relationship going on between them, and the jury never heard that. Nathan knew about it, though. The husband knew about the relationship, and he wasn't happy about it.
The more Collin and Tim drank, the more the thought of a man punching a woman angered them. Collin sent a text to another neighbor, his cousin, Victoria Tarr. I want to beat someone up bad, real bad. In the same text, he wanted to know Drunky's number.
Victoria later testified that the name Drunky was Marky Golden's nickname.
Texting with the bravado not uncommon in angry, drunk young males, Collin Tarr wanted to beat someone up bad, real bad. That someone was Nathan Golden. Collin and Tim continued to drink. Collin Tarr had moved to Gamble Oak Trail 2 years earlier to live with his father, Louis Tarr. As a teenager, Collin enjoyed junior amateur dirt bike racing until an accident broke his hip at 19. That injury later led to a dependence on pain pills and a subsequent opioid addiction. At that time, the opioid epidemic in Northwest Phoenix was ravaging his circle of high school friends, killing 4 and disabling many more. At the time of the incident, Collin had the anti-anxiety medication lorazepam in his bloodstream. Drowsiness is one of the side effects of lorazepam. That, combined with its extreme blood alcohol content, would have made it almost impossible to land, as prosecutors implied, a precision blow to a victim, much less numerous fatal blows, according to our mixed martial arts expert, who will be speaking on another episode of our podcast. By the way, the prosecution claimed Collin Tarr murdered Tim Larson mixed martial arts style, with bare hands, knees, and elbows. More about that later. Collin got away from Phoenix, and he was enjoying his fresh start in the pines of Kachina Village, Arizona, with his dad. He was employed and enjoyed a healthy lifestyle. He especially enjoyed the love of his 2 rescued pit bull puppies, Rex and Brusso.
They were brothers. That were his whole world. He used to take them out on 5-mile walks, rain or shine, every day before work, and cooked their dinner for them every single night. So they were his passion, his love. They were like his sons, those 2 boys. He rescued them from a neighbor, and the rest of the litter had died of parvo.
According to Kathy, Collin's mother, life was good for her son on Gamble Oak Trail.
He was working, he had a great job. They loved him, so he was real happy with his job. He was real happy with his home. He lived with his father. His father was up there first, and he come up to join him. And his dad and him had a fantastic relationship. They were more like best friends rather than father and son. They both shared an interest in physical fitness. They used to do they'd go to the gym, hiking, a lot of basketball, a lot of physical activities together. They worked a lot together. They cooked together. They did everything together. They were like best friends. Shared all the expenses. They barbecued every other day. They always used to share their food with Tim and his brother. They always sent food over there. They barbecued. Tim and him became real good friends. Collin really enjoyed Tim and helped him in every way that he could.
Tim Larson, Collin's neighbor and drinking buddy that day, the man who was later found dead, was a well-liked neighbor and a friend to both Collin and his dad, Louis Tarr. Louis had been Tim's friend and next-door neighbor for years.
that it was a neighborly friendship. We worked together, we hung out together, watched TV together, cooked out together, and we're just there to help each other, just like normal neighbors do. More than normal neighbors, there was a friendship involved. Some neighbors you're not friends with, but you still do things with or for. You'll run an errand or help them out. But we were more friends at the same time. We hung out, listened to music and that type of stuff together, as well as worked together and goofed around. Tim had some hardships financially, not fully, but so we helped him at times. His electricity would be turned off once in a while. We'd hook up an extension cord and maybe do some loaded laundry for him. Didn't have a vehicle, so we'd give him a ride to the grocery store a couple of times a week, and then that type of stuff, just above and beyond, but you would do for a normal neighbor. More of a friendship was built.
According to Louis, Tim was a friendly yet shy man who didn't have a mean bone in his body. Since he grew up in the Flagstaff area, Tim knew the area very well and ventured into the woods often. Tim worked part-time jobs and, for the most part, kept ahead of his bills. He liked listening to loud rock and roll and watching TV shows with hot rods and custom cars. Tim was also known to be a heavy drinker. The Tarrs saw this as Tim's main vulnerability.
Well, we saw Tim's vulnerability, unfortunately, in alcoholism, so we just watched out for him there in that area, really, so he didn't get taken advantage of or he didn't act too crazy. Listen, anybody who's got a little bit lesser for one reason or another, we always take them under our wing. It's just how we are as human beings. It's how my family operates. So we looked out for Tim a little bit. And again, part of it is maybe his lack of education and structure, and his parents had both died, so we just looked out for him a little bit.
A few hours into their partying, Collin Tarr was in a state of blackout drunk. Tim was falling down drunk, having gotten into a neighbor's Sky vodka. Eventually, both Tim and Collin were too drunk to continue the party, or their feud with Nathan Golden. The duo was last seen together north of their residences on Gamble Oak Trail. A witness described seeing Collin push Tim. Later, Tim's ball cap and glasses were found on the ground at that location. Here, Collin's mom, Kathy, explains the scenario and reads from Flagstaff Detective Kelly Barr's report.
This is a page that I'm reading from Detective Barr investigating my son, Collin Tarr. This is word for word from the police report. I told Collin he hurt Tim. He replied, I did not hurt Tim, and that he might have thrown him off him after he pulled his hair, but he never hurt Tim. Collin stated he self-defended himself. If anything, he definitely did not hurt Tim. I asked Collin what happened. He again stated, I didn't hurt Tim. I pushed him off me after he was so drunk. He was falling all over the place. It wasn't like a fight. He stated that he remembers Tim being way too drunk because he went and got Sky vodka from a neighbor and got so drunk that he was falling down all over the place. Collin stated he'd never hurt Tim and that he loved him. I asked how Tim's blood ended up on his hands. He replied, I didn't punch him. He advised if it is Tim's blood, it was from trying to help him. He also stated he didn't have sore knuckles and he didn't punch Tim. I questioned Collin about self-defending himself. Collin replied that he didn't say he had to self-defend himself. He again said Tim got so drunk off the vodka that he went home barely able to walk.
It was at this point in the investigation where Detective Barr told Collin that Tim was dead.
Collin said Tim was so wasted and asked if I had talked to Tim. I told Collin that Tim was dead. He responded, I did not kill Tim. He asked if he was serious. He then advised wasn't even hanging out with Tim, and then that Tim had left his house before dark. Collin advised he needed to speak to his attorney, and then he continued talking about how he didn't kill Tim. I then left the interview room and ceased my interview with Collin.
They both proceeded back south towards their homes. On the way back home, Tim stopped at Nathan and Marky Golden's house. According to the police report, Marky Golden said Tim stopped by looking for Nathan. According to the police report, that was the last place Tim Larson was seen alive.
The last place Tim was seen, according to Nathan, the last place he saw him was sitting in front of his house. The jury never heard that. That was the last place Tim was seen alive.
Later, Tim would be found dead in the street, in front of Nathan and Marky Golden's home. Forensic science has proven that it was one impact of 5,000 pounds of force that caused Tim Larson's death, most likely from a truck. Tim Larson's body was found in the direct path of Nathan and Marky Golden's driveway. At the time, Nathan and Marky Golden were driving a Ford F-150. On the day of Tim's death, Marky Golden was at work. Nathan Golden insists he was not home all day. In the police report, Marky Golden was, quote, adamant that Nathan was not home all day. But the police found the dryer in the Goldens' home running shortly after arriving at the crime scene, with 1 minute and 18 seconds left on the timer. As can be heard in the audio under subsequent police questioning, Nathan later created a whole false narrative about his whereabouts that day, including a totally made-up tale about wandering in Walmart, with specifics about browsing the sporting goods section and checking out the fishing tackle. When pressed by police due to contradictions in his story, Nathan Golden admitted he had lied and he was home that day. In an upcoming episode, we will play the audio to the police interrogation of Nathan Golden, including the police catching him in numerous lies. But why did he lie? Why did Nathan's mother, Marie Golden, call Tim's brother in Phoenix later in the day of the crime to explain further to the brother how Collin Tarr had killed Tim? Why did she call a man she hardly knew a few hours after his brother had died?
Yes, Terry, Tim's brother, said a lady had called him and told him that she thought that there was a fight between Victoria and Collin about the dogs, and that was untrue. So I don't know why she would call there, but it's very shady. I think it was very shady that she called Terry, Tim's brother, on the day down in Phoenix, the day that his brother died, and trying to plant a story saying that Victoria and Collin were fighting about the dogs. And I think she was fishing for information. So that never came up in court also.
Why did Nathan Golden disappear for 3 days after Tim's death, despite Flagstaff police beseeching Marky to urge Nathan to come in for questioning? And why did small-town Flagstaff police not do any investigation of the Goldens' phones or vehicle? In court, Marky Golden was asked if she had taken the Ford F-150 to the car wash that day. On the stand, Marky paused, seemingly thinking about the answer she was about to give. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds. Marky finally answered with, "I can't remember." Tune in next time as we examine more eyewitness testimony and police reports and listen to police body cam audio, which delves further into the lies and deception of February 9th, 2018 on Gamble Oak Trail. Collin Tarr is Innocent, the true crime podcast. Written and produced by me, Liz Boyle. I'm Collin Tarr's aunt. Our thanks to voiceover talent and supporter, Andy Olson. Our theme song is DOA by Bloodrock. Thank you to Lee Pickens, Stevie Hill, Rick Cobb, Jim Rutledge, Nick Taylor, Ed Grundy, and Capitol Records. Tune in to Collin Tarr is Innocent, Episode 2, where we will continue to peel back the layers of deception combined with small-town Flagstaff police incompetence to bring the real story to light. Stay tuned, and thank you for listening.